This is a weird bout lineup, man, but I like to see it. We got Kevin, the Motown Phenom Lee, facing off against D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez. This is a welterweight contest, which is very important, AJ, because Kevin Lee is not a natural welterweight. However, minus 150 favorite is Kevin Lee with a plus 125 comeback against D-Rod. AJ, man, all love to Kevin Lee. You know we're big fans of him on this show, but when are they going to stop disrespecting D-Rod, man?
I don't know, man. That's exactly what I was thinking. They just keep and don't correct me if I'm wrong, but D-Rod he had somebody scheduled up against that wasn't Preston Parsons had to step in late for his last fight.
Yeah,
It was a pretty good opposition. I can't remember, but they're definitely not giving D-Rod the respect he has, man. They're definitely treating him more like the banger, more like the stand there and swing and swing for the fences kind of fighter that we expect him to be, or at least visually see him going forward. But this dude's talented all around, man. It's crazy that he's always seems to be the underdog, or kind of shunned to the side. What do you think, Derek?
Well, that person he was supposed to fight was Abu Bakar Nurmagomedov, actually, and Preston Parsons had to step in as a last minute replacement. And he got handled, he got worked. You know what I'm saying? But D-Rod, he made the claim, AJ, that Kevin Lee is just another wrestler who is gonna start shooting in once he gets tired and I start putting it on him, once I start working him. And Kevin Lee, I think he deserves a little more respect, man, because this is a dude who is an absolute savage, man. This is a dude who has notable wins over Gregor Gillespie, right? He knocked him out in the first round, head kicked his head off of his shoulders. He got a win over Edson Barbosa. Oh, that's crazy right there. A win over Michael Chiesa after he talked about Chiesa's mom, and Chiesa was all like, "Don't you ever talk about my mom. I'll slap the shit out you right now." And then to get submitted in the first round after that, little embarrassing, I will say, but that is a big win for Kevin Lee. He knocked out Jake Matthews, and he submitted Francisco Trinaldo. Like, Kevin Lee must not be disrespected whatsoever. The big thing to note is that this is a different weight class the man is fighting in, man. He is officially 0-1 at welterweight, is Kevin Lee. His sole loss to RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, man. My question to you on this one, AJ, is that we know Kevin Lee is he's a superb athlete. He's an incredible fighter, and this is a dude who, I mean, he was in the works to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov. You know what I'm saying? Like, give the man his respect. However, he has one issue that has plagued his career, I believe, in his MMA career: 18-6, 11-6 in the UFC, and those 6 losses. The thing that has plagued him the most: first round, Kevin Lee is almost unstoppable. First round and a half, Kevin Lee is almost unstoppable. Rounds, 2.5 to the end of the fight, it starts turning into a little bit of a different story right there. That's when the shots get a little more labored. That's when the hands get low. That's when the footwork isn't quite as impeccable. That's when D-Rod can take over, man, because this dude does not get tired. His hands are going always. His volume is incredible. Literally 8 significant strikes landed per minute at almost a 50% clip. The later rounds is where D-Rod gets very, very dangerous, man. But Kevin Lee can do anything in that first round. So let me ask you this, AJ. Kevin Lee also, he hasn't fought in a little bit, right? His last fight was a loss to the current 155-pound champion, Charles Oliveira. He got submitted in the 3rd round. But do you think welterweight version of Kevin Lee is going to be able to provide a different look to Daniel Rodriguez, something that he's not used to, especially in the wrestling department?
I definitely think so. And all credit to TriStar, really. I think they're the reason that Kevin Lee has been able to make this change going forward. And I think one of the biggest problems Kevin Lee had in his Charles Oliveira fight, the skills were there. The skills were there. Everything was looking good. He was matching. They were rolling on the ground. He was looking very impressive. But Charles Oliveira had the power advantage. He was really cracking Kevin Lee, and Kevin Lee would try to crack him back, but it was just he was pillow fisting him, and he wasn't able to actually get the respect, get the damage that he was, used to seeing. So if Kevin Lee was able to put on some size, put on some muscle, and actually, like I said, get the respect and be able to hurt D-Rod going forward, then I think we're definitely going to see something crazy. And I truly believe that TriStar has done the best for Kevin Lee possible. They've turned him, like from the chubby chick on the side to now the prom queen going forward, man, because Kevin Lee, he's had a complete resurgence on the way he fights and his style and everything going forward. So if they're able to make him into the, the cardio machine that we've seen GSP be and all the other people that come out of TriStar, man, Kevin Lee's going to be dangerous going forward. What do you think, Derek?
Well, I do think that fighting at 170, he should have a little more pop on his shots. He should probably have a little more cardio because he's not killing himself to make 155 pounds. Like he literally said, he was like, I'll go down to 155 because he wants to. There's one rematch that he's looking for specifically, but he was all like, the reason why I don't want to fight there anymore is like I'm like killing myself to get there. You know what I mean? Like I'm absolutely not 100%. And we've said it time and time again, man. Weight cutting is just sanctioned cheating. It's legalized cheating. And then at the end of the day, man, the day before the fight, you're literally compromising your health and then fighting the next day. Like you should at least go up the next weight class, be a little more healthy, be at least have a full belly, being able to ready to really get down and really ready to scrap. Now, I have a question for you really quickly, AJ, man. And this was regarding to the matchup in and of itself, man. Kevin Lee was scheduled to fight Sean Brady, and that fight fell through twice. I think once because of Kevin Lee injury, and then the other one is because Sean Brady just got this crazy foot infection, man, like a crazy one that made his foot balloon up. And he says there was even talks of him possibly losing his foot. Like that's how bad it was, man. So super, super crazy. You never want to see that. All the love goes out to Sean Brady. Hopefully you get healthy and we can run this one back in the future. But is this a step up in opposition to you, Daniel Rodriguez, as opposed to Sean Brady? What do you think?
I think it is. I mean, and that just could be because I'm a big D-Rod fan, and I definitely think he doesn't get the credit he deserves. But Sean Brady's also a banger of an opponent, so it's hard to say. But I do think, at least from what I'm witnessing, D-Rod is a step up in opponents. He's just not really looked at like it. You know, his ground game is really, really good, and his striking is very impressive. Homeboy hits hard too. Just a lot of people don't really see it. So yeah, what do you think?
I agree with you, man. The one thing that I will say is that I think it's interesting that D-Rod has taken the Brian Ortega approach, where for a long time he was training out of his gym. He was winning legit fights training out of his gym, and now he has an actual training camp and all that good stuff, man. He's a former regional champion, and he started training MMA at 25 years old, man, which is super crazy because the man is only 34, so he's been in the sport training for less than 10 years, and look at where he's at today, man. So I do think that him being a southpaw, him having that mean left hand that he's always looking for is going to cause a couple of problems for Kevin Lee. However, he's going to have to get past that 3-inch reach disadvantage that he has. So that's the question here, AJ. Do you think that Kevin Lee goes for more of a striking approach, or do you think he just tries to wrestle him up? Because Daniel Rodriguez clearly says he's ready for the wrestling. But then again, Kevin Lee, he shoots about 3 times every single fight at over a 40% clip. So what's more likely, a striking affair or Kevin Lee just saying, I know what I need to do to beat the man. I have better wrestling. He had actually, believe it or not, this is a funny stat. Not really too funny, but I like it. He was 37-0 as a wrestler in his sophomore year of high school, and then he dropped out of wrestling to pursue MMA. But 37-0 as a sophomore, that's pretty tight, right? It doesn't mean much for the MMA bout that we're covering today, but that's still impressive, right?
Oh yeah, 100%, man. You're 32-0 in anything. You know, you stepped up against 32 men and you put them all down. That's pretty damn impressive either way. I definitely think Kevin Lee takes the more wrestling heavy approach on this one, especially in the beginning. Maybe once the fight goes on, he kind of gets a little more labored, and then the hands start flying a little bit better, especially if D-Rod is able to stuff a couple of those takedowns, kind of work his own takedowns, and see something that no one's ever really expecting. I definitely think the wrestling's going to start off heavy in the beginning and then kind of wane towards the end of the fight, where we're going to see some fireworks coming for him, man. What do you think?
Well, I think that the wrestling approach would be smart, and I think a jiu-jitsu approach would be even smarter. However, D-Rod has never been submitted. He is a BJJ purple belt under Eddie Bravo, and that's not any slouch. That's not just any purple belt that you got right there. That's a very legit one. However, he hasn't had to use a lot of his grappling in his MMA career so far. You know, he's had to defend takedowns, but he gets back up to his feet, and he wants to box. You already know what time it is, man. Kickbox, really. So I think, AJ, man, and we're talking about Kevin Lee's last 5, I think Daniel Rodriguez isn't a big of a name or isn't as accomplished as any of Kevin Lee's last 5, man. We got Charles Oliveira, Gregor Gillespie, RDA, Al Iaquinta, and Edson Barbosa, man. So when it comes down to this, Kevin Lee's probably looking at this like, all right, bro, this is just another matchup. This is a little something to get me to where I need to go. That's the last question I have before we give our picks on this one, AJ. Do you think that Kevin Lee could potentially, just like so many other opponents have, be like overlooking Daniel Rodriguez, like looking ahead? Do you think that's a possibility?
That's what I was exactly going to say, man. He might think Daniel Rodriguez is a small name on this scale, but that's when you get in trouble, man. You're underestimating your opponents, or you're getting in trouble when you're either underestimating or overestimating. You're giving them too much respect or too little respect. Either way, it's a recipe for disaster because your mind's not in it. You know, you're thinking about other stuff. And I definitely think that's where Kevin Lee kind of seemed to get his worst battles in, is when he's really thinking about other stuff. He's kind of thinking forward. It's not in his last fight. In his last fight, he just got outclassed. But in a lot of the other fights in previous, especially the RDA, the Ally Quinto fight for sure, he definitely starts to look at other people like, I'm better than these dudes. I'm not worried about him at all. And you do that to D-Rod, man, he's going to sleep you with that power left, man. Do you think Kevin Lee's underestimating him, or is he actually dialed in for this fight?
Oh, I took you off the screen too early. Apologies, big dog. But to answer your question, man, I do think Kevin Lee could be overlooking him just a little bit, especially because he's trying to do whatever he can to kind of fast track himself up and say, I want to fight for gold, man. That's what he's looking for specifically. So I think everybody discounts Daniel Rodriguez. However, you have to take note on the run that he's been on, man. He's 5-1 in the UFC, arguably 6-0, because a lot of people think that he won the Nicholas Dalby fight. I think you kind of in that camp too as well, right? But ultimately, man, the man's never been knocked out. He's never been submitted, and he's only lost via decision. So I think Kevin Lee is going to have to be prepared for a long night, a decision affair, even if it goes down all 3 rounds. Give me your take before we give our picks on the odds on this one. Do you think Kevin Lee should be a -150 favorite in this fight?
I think this one's a little more justified. Kevin Lee, especially coming off of just fighting the champ at 155, he definitely has the name recognition going for him. And he's not the Kevin Lee of yesteryear that we're used to seeing, man. Homeboy is a lot more dangerous going forward. So I'm not as upset on the odds on this one going forward, but I do think that, D-Rod starts to get a little bit more respect with the win on this one coming up.
Yeah, I personally, I think that this should be more of like a -115, -105 type, almost pick 'em type situation, just because of the tape on D-Rod, man. It goes to show the man is very game. I will say, D-Rod, he outstrikes Kevin Lee by about 5 significant strikes landed per minute. He outlands him. He throws at a better clip in terms of his percentage at 56% as opposed to 51, and 83% takedown defense for Daniel Rodriguez. So we'll see where that comes into play. But give me your pick on this one, AJ. Who do you got and why?
Man, this one's a really interesting fight. Another coin toss for me, to be honest, man. I'm really excited for this one coming up. But I got Daniel Rodriguez by decision. I do think Kevin Lee's going to be able to take him down, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold D-Rod down. And we're going to see some hands going in the second and the third round. And if this one does stay standing, man, picture fight of the night, because this is going to be an absolute banger of a match. I got Daniel Rodriguez by decision. It's going to be a fun one. Who you got, Derek, and why?
Yeah, it's a little bit of foreshadowing fight of the night right there, man. But I'm going D-Rod on this one, man. I just think that the hands are going to be a little bit too much for Kevin Lee, and the output over the course of 3 rounds. Not just round 1, not just round 2, but all 3 rounds, Daniel Rodriguez is going to be swinging and banging, and that left hand is no joke. That 1-2 combination, that check left hook that he has, the check right hook that he has, because he's a southpaw, everything, goes backwards and whatnot. But I think that he's going to put, being able to knock out Dwight Grant, man. A lot of people don't know about Dwight Grant, but I believe his nickname is the Body Snatcher, and it's for a reason. This dude takes heads off of people's shoulders, you know what I'm saying? Him being able to get him out of there right there. Gabe Green being able to get him out of there with the unanimous decision victory. Mike Perry, all these things. I know Kevin Lee was saying I wanted to just go beat up on Mike Perry because it would have been an easy fight. I would have gave the man an opportunity and whatnot. But, I mean, it's Mike Perry brings it each and every single fight, man. So I think Daniel Rodriguez, even though he hasn't had the caliber of opposition that Kevin Lee has, I think that the man is ready. He's game, and he just says, he's just waiting for the calls from Dana White. He's like, I just want these big fights, man. He's like, I will take care of whoever you need me to take care of. I just want those big name fights, and I think he's finally getting it right here with Kevin Lee. After this fight, folks, I think Daniel Rodriguez, you're not going to see a plus next to his name in his next fight, I personally believe. Daniel Rodriguez via decision. That's who I got on that one, AJ.